We have an important role when it comes to helping our young people develop the skills they need, but I actually believe we have an even bigger role in supporting them to develop the attitudes that make their success inevitable. G'day, I'm Debra Caldow. Welcome to the Red Giraffe Solutions Expanding Worlds podcast, where we aim to support you as you help your young person with additional needs plan for their future, a future where they're safe, secure, and live a rewarding and fulfilling life. From around the world, I share stories and I share solutions from people making this possible right now. I'm a parent of a young person with additional needs, so I understand the challenges. Many of the people I've interviewed on this podcast have already helped me design a better future for my daughter, and I hope that they might help you as well to imagine what's possible for your young person. This podcast is made possible by Red Giraffe Solutions, which is a project I'm proud to be part of, supporting families to build a better future for their children. We now have available at Red Giraffe Solutions an online course called Independent Cooking Made Easy. This is a new and unique approach we developed when we realised traditional cooking techniques and recipes were never going to enable our daughter to cook without some support or supervision. It's a safe, simple system that uses no more than 5 ingredients, has no weighing, cutting or chopping, and no lifting of heavy dishes. Each of the 16 recipes in the course includes a step-by-step video of our daughter making the meal, plus a visual recipe card. We developed this for our daughter to solve her challenges with cooking, and every recipe in the course she can and does genuinely cook for herself. You can find a link to the course in this episode's show notes. How many times have you heard in the past few weeks, "Where did that year go?" I'll admit it, I may have even said it myself. And it's often what we say when we think about our children and start reminiscing about when they were young. And maybe we were a bit more important in their lives. Or is that just me? But without stating the obvious, it can feel that before we know it, our children are getting ready to leave school, and for that transition to whatever comes next in their lives. As I talked about in last week's episode, there are 4 things I wish I'd done more of to support my daughter when she was at that pivotal time in her life. The first 2 I talked about were starting to plan much earlier and doing more in-depth research. But there are also a couple of other things that I wish I'd done differently. And those are the things I want to talk about this week. The first of those is about recognising the importance of ability and attitude and how these interconnect. Too often our young people get overlooked because people assume they lack the skills to get into paid employment or even to live independently. This is backed up by the statistics. So we have an important role when it comes to helping our young people develop the skills they need. But I actually believe we have an even bigger role in supporting them to develop the attitudes that make their success inevitable. When we think about our children moving on from school, we often start by thinking about what skills they will need to enable them to get into paid work. And if our children want to get into work rather than continue with their studies, then the skills they most need will be what we label employability skills. So what does that really mean? Well, a quick search online gives you a list that talks about soft skills like communication, teamwork, problem solving, time management and initiative. Nothing in there about the actual role, just transferable skills that can be useful whatever the job is. But in reality for our young people, these particular types of skills are ones that they can find really challenging. But these are also the types of skills that we can work on with them in everyday family life. One of the best pieces of advice I heard from a job coach who I spoke to about this was that we should always be looking at what things our children can do at home that might be transferable skills for them to use later. Things like vacuuming at home, which I have to say I took on board very quickly. Even today my daughter is in charge of vacuuming the stairs. It's also about them playing a role in the house. It's about teamwork, if you like, taking on responsibilities, rather than sitting there and not being actively involved. Interrelated into this is the idea of choice, which this same job coach talked about in terms of our young people not being very good at making choices, in part because they don't get enough practice at it. I know this is one area where I could have done better. I sometimes did more for my daughter than I needed to. And there are other external reasons for why they don't get practice at choice. And that has to do with people underestimating them and thinking they can't do things for themselves. But this idea of encouraging choice can help embed other employability skills, like problem solving and initiative. Of course, when they're younger, choice is a very different thing. If I'd given my daughter certain choices when she was younger, she would have lived on a diet of chicken nuggets and fries. But now she's older, she has to make those choices herself. And all that I can really do is try and help her understand the consequences. There are always things that we can be doing at home to develop transferable skills, to build on things they will hopefully also be learning at school. So developing ability is important, but there is something that is equally important, and I would argue can be even more important, and that's attitude. Again, a quick search online talks about attitude as a lens through which we see the world, shaping how we interpret information and how we react to situations. For my daughter, having a positive attitude to her job helps her every day. It helps her manage how she deals with any challenges, and it probably even helps her with the early mornings. When I think of attitude, I believe it comes back to ensuring our young people have from a very early age a presumption of purpose. This may not always be given to them in school, so we need to make sure they are given the kinds of messages that help them develop positive attitudes that will help them be successful at whatever they choose to do. And I think too, when it comes to attitude, often our young people actually have a head start. Because let's face it, they've been through an awful lot more challenges than a lot of their peers, and they've developed that amazing skill of resilience. But looking back, I wish I'd known earlier the importance of attitude, because once I did, I also realised there are plenty of resources out there, like audiobooks that can really help our young people develop the kinds of positive attitudes that they need to be successful. Rather fortuitously, for quite some time, my daughter and I spent many hours driving to her school, then to her college. So this was the perfect opportunity to listen to audiobooks. Most often her still favourite, Zig Ziglar. Now that she works in hospitality, his mantra that you can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want is one I know she uses often. Other favourites of his include failure is an event, not a person, and that saying has proved very useful over the years. Key to this as well has been repetition. We listened to the same books over and over until the ideas were understood and remembered. I think there's real value in our young people hearing voices constantly telling them how amazing they can be, because it counters those negative voices they can too often hear around them. So if I had my time again, I would be much more focused on supporting her to build positive attitudes in all parts of her life, as well as ensuring that I took an active role earlier in helping her build her abilities in both practical and soft skills. But there is one more final thing I wish I'd known on this journey, and that is that it's never over, but it does get an awful lot easier. And I know that when I say that, most people respond with, "Are you kidding me?" So let me quickly reassure you that the level of support you offer changes a lot over time, and the type of support also changes. The support you offer when they get older is about being there when or if they ask for help. This also comes back to our vocal method, where the L is legacy, and we talk about changing the perceptions of what a legacy really is. Your legacy isn't just the money you leave behind, it's a lot more than that. It's the attitudes they have, it's the skills they have, it's their self-belief, their confidence. The best thing I'll ever leave my daughter is the momentum to live the life she wants without me. We all know when we lose someone close to us, however painful it is, life does continue. So in a sense, I see my role as preparing her for that. While I'm around, she's free to make mistakes and learn from them, and I'm here if I'm needed. I honestly hope she makes lots of mistakes, because that will mean she will be learning, and hopefully she won't make those same mistakes again in her life. So yes, it never ends. Well, actually it does for us, but let's not go there quite yet. But it gets easier, because you'll have the time to sit back with pride and bask in their successes. And there might even be some time for some self-congratulation as well, reflecting on your legacy, that your child will be safe, secure, and live a fulfilling life. So just like my daughter, I've learned from my mistakes. I now know I should have planned further ahead, done more research, understood the role of ability and attitude, and never assumed that my job would be over, just so that it would get a lot easier. Despite all this, my daughter's and our story has a very happy ending. But I hope by sharing this, I can make someone else's journey a bit easier. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope that the stories and solutions shared on here help you as you support your young person to create their future. If you know anyone who would find the ideas useful, please share the podcast with them. To support the podcast, please consider finding out more about the Independent Cooking Made Easy online course. It's a safe, simple system that works. There are links to the course in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn at Debra Caldow. I'd love to have a conversation with you on any of the topics we all care about. Bye for now.